a police officer stops you, would you answer him? Would you be obedient to the law? Because a police officer is supposed to enforce laws and regulations of the country. Your attitude towards your policeman will definitely build the attitude of the policeman towards you.
There have been concerns,
yes.
Especially when it comes to human rights violations committed by police officers.
Yes.
Does this merging, will it help in any way to curb this? Because even just the other day we had
it's a matter of responsibility. What we want is each officer to take responsibility. For example, you remember I told you as it stands today, we had 3 regional commanders. We had an administration police regional commander, CID regional commander, and a Kenya police regional commander. In event that there's a problem, who takes responsibility? And therefore, once we have one commander, he takes responsibility for the command of his region, and he has no excuse. And therefore, that means that we will be able to hold officers more accountable. And when officers get more accountable, then it means that violations won't be there. And if they are there, there would be many more that can be managed.
Are we going to conduct these changes, especially the integration part? Are we doing it in phases? Are we doing it
the changes take place with immediate effect.
Yeah.
There's nothing complex about it. For example, I've just told you that we had administration police officers undertaking general duty, but as administration police officers. They have been now moved to perform those general duties as general duty police officers at one. A police station is a police station run by the number of officers that have been allocated. And there will be no Mudika police post and Mudika administration police post. It will be one. And the changes take place with immediate effect. We don't need any, there's nothing complex about that. Having one county commander or having one regional commander, there's nothing complex about it. What it is that any police officer, whether administration, whether criminal investigations, whether general duty, one would be picked to run one region, and it depends on your how the bosses and we are going to decide on who runs each region. For example, if I'm to be moved from where I sit, then the police must get a good communicator to sit in my position, and I go to a different position. And if I have to go to a different position, then I have to go to a position where I'm considered to be having competencies. Yes.
There's been a concern I've just seen here on Twitter. Someone asks that now that police officers will be given house allowances, means they will be living with us.
Yes.
They will not be living in the AP lines.
Yes.
Will they be armed all the time?
It depends.
On?
Are you on duty or not on duty? Is it necessary for you to be armed or not necessary for you to be armed? Yes.
Final question. There are about 1,000 plus officers who have graduated post-2016 and are not earning as per their ranks, and of course their improvement personally on education. What happens to them, especially with these new changes?
What you need to understand is that we recruit people at various levels. For example, when we are recruiting 10,000 officers, the way we have done in the last 4 years, we always give vacancies. Our minimum recruitment standard has been D+ and above. Now, when the minimum recruitment standard is D+. When we are recruiting this minimum, when we are recruiting 10,000, we may take 10% of 10,000 and say we want to recruit graduate constables 1,000 because we know we can absorb them into senior ranks within a certain period of time. Now, unfortunately, what happens is that, or fortunately, what happens is that you recruit 10,000 officers, you have recruited 700 graduates that you expect to absorb as constables. Within 5 years, another extra 1,000 officers have gone back to school and have attained degree, and you had not projected for them. It happens in all services. If you go to the military, for example, which is a disciplined service, you only become a cadet when you attain a grade of a B plane and above. And if you come from the community where you come and I come, you have many people with A's. So you will find majorly they'll pick people with A or A- or B+. Now, what happens in the military is that if you are never recruited as a cadet officer with that grade, then you would never be a second lieutenant and above. There are standards that have been put in place. So even in the police, we may decide that we just want a certain grade for you to become an inspector. You will not come and demand that I've attained a degree and therefore I must attain this position. So it depends on vacancies. And I've told you, those ones whom we employed as graduate constables have a right to complain. But those who have attained their degrees in the process have to go through the normal process to attend. But when vacancies arise, then again, it would be unfair to complain.
Are you foreseeing any resistance from these changes, especially from the...
We are a disciplined service. You have no space to resist.
You have no choice.
No choice.
Thank you for joining us.
And it is for the better of all of us, for those who may not know. And I think within a year or two, everyone will be happy.
Thank you very much,
including
sir.
Kenyans.
Thank you for joining us, mostly for Kenyans. Thank you for joining us here tonight on KTN Primetime News. Charles Owino is the Director of Communications at the National Police Service, discussing the police reforms that will be effected in the next 90 days. That's about 3 months. What it means for us, I've tried to ask as many questions as I can from what I'm seeing on our social media platforms. Once again, thank you for joining us here tonight. Another big story at this particular hour, President Uhuru Kenyatta has rejected the Finance Bill 2018 in a Gazette notice that has just reached us here in our newsroom. Remember, Kenyans were banking on him to sign this particular bill, especially members of parliament, to postpone rather or suspend this particular bill for another 2 years, or to suspend this VAT, 16% VAT on petroleum products from taking effect for the next 2 years. He has rejected it, says he has reservations. Parliament will now sit on Thursday at about 2:30 p.m. To, of course, be told why the president has reservations as they deliberate the way forward. Our senior political affairs reporter, Duncan Haemba, will be joining us shortly by way of phone to just give us details on what this really means. I understand we have him on phone. Duncan, thank you for joining us tonight. What does this mean? Let's break it down for Kenyans. Now that President Uhuru Kenyatta has refused to assent to this particular bill, Finance Bill 2018, what does this mean?
Akisa, I think from what we gather is that basically the president has thrown back the ball to the members of the National Assembly. Remember, they are the ones that passed this particular legislation in 2013. Then it was deferred by 2 years, and now they wanted to seek another deferral of 2 more years. Now they were hoping that the president will assent to the bill to effect some of the amendments they did. But I think the president, by rejecting and sending it back, because that Gazette notice says Part 1, Part A, they will be looking at the reservations that the president has expressed. Basically, it's that memorandum that the president will have attached. It means now the president has thrown back to them. Now the onus is on the members of parliament when they congregate on Tuesday on that special sitting, which has been gazetted for Tuesday and Thursday next week. Basically, it's now upon them to marshal at least the required threshold of 2/3. That is about 233 members of parliament or members of the National Assembly now to overrule or sort of overturn what the president failed to do. Basically, they want to, now it is now upon them to marshal the numbers and veto their power as the lawmaking organ of government. So we will be expecting that on Tuesday, top on their priority or top on their agenda will be coming together, looking at the way Kenyans have expressed their fury with the implementation of that 16%. Now it is upon them to get to the required threshold of 2/3, which is 233 members of the National Assembly, to overrule the president on that.
Haemba,
yes.
What is the likelihood that the National Assembly will veto this decision by the president, knowing very well that President Uhuru Kenyatta is a leader of the largest party in the National Assembly? And from other decisions that have been put to a vote in Parliament, members have been whipped to vote in a certain way. What are the chances that this time round they'll go against the tide for Kenyans?
Well, this particular point, both the leaders, the members of parliament and the president are in a catch-22 two situation. In that, the president, on the other hand, has a heavy budget deficit. That if he fails, if the bill is actually overturned by Parliament, then it means the government has to look for other ways of raising that budget deficit that is estimated to be about 71 billion shillings. But on the other hand, if they decide that they will have to side with the president, and then the public, which has actually expressed a fury, remember the standoff that we had immediately, that law was effected when even fuel transporters had decided to ground, and there was near paralysis by only 24 hours when people said that they will not fuel, or rather oil transporters will not agree to buy fuel at the depots at that high price, and then by the time they go offload to the various places they take their fuel, then perhaps there will be changes that will see them incur losses. That near standoff or nearly paralyzed the economy for 24 hours, and it got everyone worried, and that's why many are saying they're only waiting for the president to come and solve the crisis. And therefore, the president has come and they expected that he will be signing into law that bill that would see the VAT, the 16% deferred by 2 more years, which has not been the case. Therefore, if they decide to side with the president, then the country or the electorate will be expressing their fury, and perhaps there are already plans that there has to be demonstrations or protests across the country. And on the other side, if they decide to overrule the president by marshalling the 2/3, then the president will have to ask them, particularly members of his Jubilee Party, as to why they want to cripple the economy and by and large sort of make the operations difficult for the Jubilee administration. So that is the tightrope that members of the National Assembly, particularly those ones that are under the command of the president in Jubilee, that they will be walking come Tuesday. And not only those ones, even those in the opposition, this is where they will be tested. Remember, there is that handshake that was supposed to bridge the gap. They are calling it the Bridging the Gap Initiative. And therefore, in the event that mostly those ones in the opposition fail to stand their ground and challenge by actually matching the 2/3, then they will be perceived to have been sellouts, in that they've abandoned their people, then they have gone to the other side. And therefore, that is the scenario that we will see come Tuesday and Thursday when the members go back to the National Assembly. They've been calling for that special sitting. Now the president has done exactly that, and the Speaker of the National Assembly has gazetted that special sitting. Now, where the rubber will meet the road will be on Tuesday when they meet in Parliament.
All right. It's a matter of wait and see. Duncan, thank you for joining us tonight. Duncan Hembe is our senior political affairs reporter. Of course, as we just take a look at what are the likely events we'll see pan out on a Thursday in the special sitting of the National Assembly to deliberate President Uhuru Kenyatta's refusal to assent to the Finance Bill 2018. Let's now get into business news. Kenya may miss out on the next tranche of funding from the International Monetary Fund, IMF, after the timelines for review of the facility expired, according to a report by Reuters, which quoted National Treasury Cabinet Secretary Henry Rotich, confirming the facility was no longer accessible, but the country will still be engaging the fund. Kenya had secured a 6-month extension for its standby credit arrangement of $989.8 million from the International Monetary Fund in March, which was due to expire in mid-September. The Finance Ministry's Principal Secretary Kamau Thuge had said earlier on Thursday that not having an IMF precautionary arrangement would not hurt the economy. Kenya had not drawn on the precautionary arrangement last year. Kenya Airways has today received the last point of departure, confirming formal approval to direct flight to the United States of America. And as our reporter Abubakar Abdullahi explains, all eyes now turn to the inaugural Nairobi-New York flight.
It is all systems go for the national carrier after close to a decade of negotiations for a direct flight to the American capital of New York. A hassle even the authorities from the two countries did not shy to express.
So today is really a culmination of a process which has been going on for quite a while.
It goes back, I don't know, what do you think, Cabinet Secretary, 5, 6, 7 years, even longer? It goes back quite a ways. So it is going to give me extraordinary pleasure in just a couple of minutes after the Cabinet Secretary does his speech.
Yes, you've come a long way. Because looking back, we signed what we call the bilateral air service agreement with the U.S. way back in 2008.
Who fly directly to the U.S. With the non-stop flight, the tourism sector is set to milk the gains, even as Kenya eyes to wreck from trade.
In terms of tourism, currently we have about 85,000 from the U.S. I believe that number should triple.
The confirmation now favors the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport in its attempt to posit itself as the region's aviation hub, but security concerns will test the region's largest airport. Even as the announcement made here relieves an anxiously waiting aviation industry, the national carrier may be tested to see whether it is the pride of Africa. Abubakar Abdullahi for KTN News.
Mbadi's former chairman of Chase Bank, Mohammed Zafrullah Khan, has been arraigned in court for allegedly obtaining 1.15 billion Kenya shillings through conspiracy and fraud between January 2015 and March 2016. He appeared before senior resident magistrate Helen Onkwani and denied the criminal charges. He faces trial alongside 9 others who failed to appear in court following summons. The former bank boss alongside 3 others are accused of removing the 1.1 billion shillings from Chase Bank accounts and facilitating the transfer to Paramount Universal Bank.
3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th.
Moving on, the Kabarak University has partnered with the House of Procurement in a move that will seek to lift procurement standards in the country. The deal that will see to the start of a supply chain business school of Africa in the university will aim at to train managers, accountants and anyone interested in bettering their supply skills.
One of the things we need in operational excellence is to create what we know as lean manufacturing. Lean manufacturing actually identifies what are the steps that you're doing to deliver your product. If you are very clear about those steps, then you can start looking at what is the variability in each one of those steps. That variability follows a normal distribution, and therefore you can be able to work out how do you optimize each step. So integrity, in House of Procurement, we have a company named Cisco from South Africa who is our partner. We also have a partnership with some recruitment companies. The name Cisco has a system that can be able to capture somebody who is lying and look at a person and check their integrity level automatically.
The purpose and key objective of Kabarak University and House of Procurement is to demonstrate the critical role played by the logistics, procurement, and supply chain functions in businesses, in governments, in non-governmental organizations, and in general economic successes and development, and to reveal the challenges, problems, downturns, non-performances, collapse of many government functions, collapse of many government projects, industries, companies, and private business due to poor logistics, procurement, and supply chain management, and talent development.
Now, the National Treasury and Ministry of Planning today launched the budget preparation process for the financial year 2019-2020 and the medium term. This is an annual event that kicks off the annual budget making process for the government. Our reporter Thandiwe Yego has more on that.
With the gaping hole in Kenya's 3 trillion shilling budget, the enormous deficit pegged at over 700 billion shillings has raised more questions than answers on whether Kenya's economy is on track or not. The finance minister remains unbowed by the set of numbers. Speaking at the unveiling of the 2019-2020 medium-term plan, Rotich had this to say.
Economic recovery is on course, reflecting a return to stability and renewed confidence following the conclusion of the lengthy electioneering process in 2017.
Despite external shocks to the economy experienced last year, Kenya's economy was able to weather drought and floods, with the gross domestic product accelerating from 4.9% in 2017 to 5.7% in the first quarter of 2018.
We all know it's opportunities for large and small businesses to thrive. It also increases government revenues. It also facilitates the expansion of social programs and, of course, reduces income disparities and poverty. Implementation of the Big Four requires financial resources, which, as we all know, are limited. There is therefore need for prudent management of the available resources. A larger portion of the resources, of course, as you know, is expected to come from the private sector. On our part, we shall continue the efforts of mobilizing resources.
In spite of the gloomy picture hanging over Kenya's economy, even as public debt soars, the government maintains the economy is expected to expand by 6.0% in 2018 and higher still to above 7.0% over the medium term. The budget has now been aligned to the needs of the government's Big Four agenda, which will focus on food security, manufacturing, affordable housing, and universal healthcare. Pending bills are a major concern in this budget, such as the civil servants housing scheme in Makueni, and the government's priority will be on finishing these projects. Tandy Weyego for KTN News.
Remember, a big story definitely still on President Uhuru Kenyatta rejecting the Finance Bill 2018 that sought to suspend putting into effect the 16% VAT on petroleum products to 2020, and the National Assembly or Parliament is expected to have a special sitting on a Thursday, of course, to just take a look at what reservations the President had on this and why he has rejected this bill. Of course, we are already seeing a lot of reactions from Kenyans online, but earlier on, Pachika Mimo worked on a story where Minority Leader in the National Assembly, John Mbadi, criticized the National Assembly leadership for unjustifiably delaying submission of the Financial Bill 2018 to President Uhuru Kenyatta 2 weeks after Parliament passed the bill, which suspended the implementation of the controversial 16% value-added tax on petroleum products to 2020. Mbadi appealed to Speaker Justin Muturi to fast-track the process and save millions of suffering Kenyans. And as opposition increase over the fuel levy, with the Energy Regulatory Commission planning to increase petrol and power prices on Friday, the Dialogue Reference Group now wants the fuel levy on petroleum products scrapped off immediately, as it was hurting Kenyans.
A fortnight ago, members of the National Assembly passed the Finance Bill 2018 and suspended implementation of 16% value-added tax on petroleum products to 1st September 2020. However, Cabinet Secretary for National Treasury Henry Rotich invoked the VAT Act 2013 and imposed the fuel levy on 1st September following expiry of the 2-year extension. Fuel pump prices were increased and the cost transferred to the consumer through increased fares. Manufacturers of basic commodities have also threatened to increase price in line with the 16% VAT on fuel. It was expected that the Finance Bill 2018 would be at President Uhuru Kenyatta's desk early this week as soon as he jetted back into the country to either assent to or reject the bill. Minority Leader John Mbadi criticized the delay Thursday afternoon. Come evening, the Speaker of the National Assembly delivered the Finance Bill 2018 to State House Nairobi for consideration by President.
Parliament should always do what is right to the people of Kenya. Parliament is an institution that should not be seen to be working in cahoots with the executive to burden Kenyans more. Or
early last week, Treasury and the State Law Office agreed on the contents of the bill, but the uproar that has greeted the fuel levy has put the government at crossroads. Henry Rotich, who was at State House Wednesday, said consultations of the fuel levy were at an advanced stage and the outcome will be announced any time. But he refused to give a specific time frame.
On this issue of fuel, both the rich and the poor are crying. So who is this who would still have second thoughts that we would still continue with this taxation?
The enthusiasm we saw when they were passing amendments to the election laws, whereby before the ink dried of the Speaker's signature, it was already on set as the same day, and the next day it was being taken for publishing. We are wondering that this is a very serious issue that should be given the attention that it deserves. Why are they taking unusually long?
The Dialogue Reference Group is opposed to the levy.
The 16% value-added tax on petroleum products be scrapped immediately, as it is adding the citizens of Kenya.
The Dialogue Reference Group wants Parliament to immediately authorize an independent forensic audit of the national debts, which is estimated at 5 trillion shillings. The group also wants the government to immediately stop borrowing for infrastructure projects.
The proposed expansion of the Nairobi-Mombasa highway should be suspended for now, since the standard gauge railway is intended to decongest the current highway.
The Energy Regulatory Commission is set to announce new pump prices